Sit in a comfortable meditation posture and close the eyes. Find the silence that's always there deep in the mind. Connect with that silence. Become the silence. You are the silent witness. Now listen to the reading of the Yoga Vasishta from that perspective of the silent witness. Book 3, Chapter 122. Continuing with verse 55. The essence of the Supreme Soul. At first, gave rise to the mind, will, which spreads out the universe with its network of endless varieties. It was like the sky, issuing out of the infinite emptiness and assuming the shape of blue atmosphere, which is also a nothing. Removal of desires melts down the mind and dissolves the mists of ignorance from the face of consciousness. Then appears the bright light of the one infinite and uncreated God. Like the clear sky of autumn after the clouds disperse. So this is a very clear statement of our task. If we wish to achieve moksha, we must melt the mountain ranges of individual karmic traces. And that will allow us to experience the beginning of the bright light of the infinite one and uncreated God. The name for this aspect of the divine is Paramajyoti. Paramajyoti means light that is beyond and supreme. This we also call Krishna's effulgence. Krishna's effulgence is like the sun behind clouds. The clouds are, of course, karmic traces. Now there are levels of karmic traces and mountain ranges of karmic traces that we have created. And these all must be balanced to achieve the ultimate freedom. Freedom from illusion. All karmic traces cast a spell of illusion so that we cannot experience who we truly are. '57. At first, the mind grows out from the Supreme Soul with all its varieties and takes the nature of the lotus-born Brahma by its desire of creation. It stretches out a variety of worlds by its creative will, like fancied apparitions appearing before the imagination of deluded children. Non-entity appears like an entity before us. It dies away at death and reappears with our new birth. The mind itself takes its rise from divine consciousness and displays itself in the substance of the divine soul, like waves playing on the surface of the waters of the deep. Book 4 on existence, Stitikanda. This section discusses the place of the individual being, Jiva, in the scheme of creation. Vasishtha points out that the individual is none other than the ego sense, or I, known as ahankara. This ego sense is the chief impediment to living with the knowledge of one's true self, Atmasthiti. It is because of the ego's sense that human beings fail to recognize themselves as they really are and suffer misery. It is only when the identification with the ego sense is extinguished that a seeker attains realization of the Atman, the Supreme Soul. The body and the senses are inert. It is the Chidabhasha, the reflected light of the Atman that gives life to the body and makes the senses perform their functions. The objects perceived by the senses are not different from the Atman. The perceiver and the objects perceived both originate from the Atman and therefore are identical. When a person gains firm comprehension of this truth, he or she realizes that nothing exists apart from one's own Atman or self. The Atman is then realized as both the origin of this universe and its enjoyer as well. When this knowledge becomes firm, a person is freed from the duality of happiness and sorrow. Chastity, brahmacharya, constant practice, abhyas, and detachment, vairagya, are the means for attaining this knowledge, which in turn leads to a firm abidance in the self. Atman Sthiti. Chapter 1. Immaterial spirit cannot have a material seed to produce any material world. Vasishtha said, attend now, Ram, to the subject of existence, which follows that of production. This knowledge produces nirvana, or utter annihilation of the self or soul. Know that the world of phenomena that exists before you and your knowledge of ego or self-existence are only false conceptions of the formless non-existence or emptiness. You see tints of various colors, painting the empty sky without any paint or their cause. This is only a conception of the mind without its visual perception. Like the vision in a dream of one who is not in a state of sound sleep. It is like a city in the sky, built and present in your mind. Or like the shivering apes, warming themselves by red clay, thinking it to be red hot fire. It is perceiving and pursuing an unreality. The world of phenomena is only a different aspect of Brahma, like that of a whirlpool in water. And like the unsubstantial sunlight appears as a real substance in the sky. It is like the baseless fabric of gold of the celestials on high. And like the air-built castle of Gandharvas in the midway sky. It is like a false sea in a mirage, appearing true at the time. It is like the celestial utopian cities of imagination in empty air that are taken for truth. It is like romantic realms with their picturesque scenes in poets' imaginations, which are nowhere in nature. It seems to be solid and thick within, but it is without any pith or solidity, like a thing in an empty dream. It is like the ethereal sphere, full of light all around, but all hollow within. It is like the blue autumn sky, with its light and flimsy clouds without any rainwater. It is like an unsubstantial vacuum, with the cerulean blue of solid sapphire. And like mansions and women appearing in dreams, fleeting as air and intangible to touch. It is like a flower garden in a picture, painted with blooming blossoms and appearing as fragrant, but without any fragrance. It is luminous to sight, without the inherent heat of light, and resembles the orb of the sun or a flaming fire presented in a picture. It is like a domain of ideas, the language of the brain, an unreal reality or a seeming something. It is like a painting of a bed of lowers without essence or fragrance. It is like the variegated sky, painted with colors that it does not possess. It is an unsolid, as empty air and many-colored as the rainbow, without any color of its own. All its various colorings of materiality fade away under the right discrimination of reason, and in the end it is found to be as unsolid a substance as the stem of a plantain tree. It is like the rotation of black spots before the eyes of a blind man, and like the shape of a shadowy non-existence presented as something existent before the naked eye. Like a bubble of water, the world seems like something substantial to sight. But in reality, all hollow within. And though appearing as juicy, it is without any moisture at all. Bubbling worlds are as widespread as the morning dews or frost. But take them up and you will find them to be nothing. Some think it is gross matter, others a vacuum. Some believe it is a fluctuation of thought or a false vision. Many believe it to be a mere compound of atoms. I am partly of a material frame, my body and mind, but spiritually, I am an empty, immaterial substance. Although I can be felt by the touch of the hand, yet I am as intangible as a nocturnal fiend, an empty shadow only. Ram said, "Sage, it is said that at the end of a great Kalpa age, the visible world remains in its seed, after which it develops again in its present form. Please fully explain this to me. Are they ignorant or knowing men who think in these ways? Please, Sage, tell me the truth. To answer my questions and tell me about the process of development." Vasishtha replied, "Those who say that the physical world existed in the form of a seed at the final sleep of Brahma are altogether ignorant of the truth and talk like children to children. Hear me tell you how contrary it is to right reason and how far removed from truth. It is a false supposition, leading both the preacher and hearer of such a doctrine to great error and an egregious mistake. Those who attempt to show the existence of the world in the form of a germ in a physical seed maintain a very silly position, as I shall now explain to you. A seed is in itself a visible thing. It is more an object of sense than of the mind, like seeds of rice and barley are seen to sprout forth in their germs and leaves. The mind is beyond the 6 organs of sense and is a very minute particle. It cannot possibly be born of itself, nor become the seed of the universe. The Supreme Spirit also, being more rarefied than the subtle ether and indefinable by words, cannot be the form of a seed. That which is minute as a nothing is equivalent to nothing. It could never be a physical seed, without which there could be no germ nor sprout. That which is more rare and transparent than the empty and clear sky cannot possibly contain the world with all its mountains and seas, and the heavens with all their hosts, in its transcendent substratum. Now let us continue as the silent witness. Observe the conscious thinking mind and start the mantra. let go of the mantra and follow it to the deepest levels of consciousness. And observe how the mantra balances the karmic traces that have been enlivened by our reading of the Yoga Vasishta. Jai Gurudev.